What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Gridiron Uncensored. Cheers. Get a little swiggeroo here before we start. Damn, that's good. All right. That's some 13 Colonies whiskey right there. If you don't know them, go check them out. But either way, we're doing more of the ACC previews. We've already knocked out a couple of teams here. We've gone through Florida State, Duke. We've hit some good ones already, but we're going to hit even more tonight. We've got Louisville, Miami, North Carolina coming up tonight. And then we're going to roll through these, man. I'm telling you, anything that you want to know about these teams, we're going to let you know. So, Trevor, I guess let's just go ahead and jump into Louisville because they've had one of the strangest portal seasons that I've seen. And there's been a lot of strange shit going on in the portal. All right. But these guys, people have been jumping in. They've been leaving. Bags are clearing. I don't know what's going on at Louisville.
And I'll tell you what,
pretty solid, man. I don't know.
It's crazy. 30 in and 30 out, according to 24/7 Sports. They had 30 leave and 30 come in, and then a couple that have came in and then went back out. Yeah. They came in the first portal. They're leaving in the spring portal. Whatever.
It's a mess, man.
Brown can't keep nobody. All right.
Maybe he was like, they got him in, and he's like, "Hey,
nah, you ain't gonna cut it, bro.
Maybe you're not what we thought. You're not who we thought you were."
And you know, quite honestly, they do have a lot of players coming in, and really 30 players coming off of the transfer portal for a big time program, kind of like Louisville. That's a lot. That's a lot of players.
Yeah,
to break into a new system and things like that. One that sticks out to me, we talked about it off air, is Penny Boone, the running back from Louisville, where he came in and he left, and then whatever. He might even come back. You never know. But as of right now, he's committed to UCF. But he's a weird one. And the other major one that I found was a major one is Tyler Barron. He is leaving. He is in the transfer portal. He's considered a 4-star, but has yet to commit at this point in time. So he could boomerang back into the Cardinals world. But at this point, we're halfway through the month of May. Why would you want to be sitting there in limbo in the transfer portal at this point? I mean, at this point, any practice time, any time in system, getting to know the coaches, it's all valuable time for young players. This is the part of the transfer portal that I don't understand the management side of things as far as the player side. It's not even the team side at this point. It's the players' decision-making ability to, if you don't have offers within like the first week of you entering the portal, you might as well just remove yourself from it, because either people aren't interested or they have other options and they're using you as a backup plan.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I don't understand, how you're still uncommitted at this point. And especially, people might say, well, it's the roster limit. You only can have 85 scholarships. Yes, that's technically true. But with NIL, that doesn't really matter anymore. And gotten into a, kind of an argument about it on Twitter before with the Miami fan. Like, no, it does not matter. And people have said that that are, respected in the football community. They've said it does not matter. These NIL deals will pay for their tuition. Like they hammer this shit out, and it doesn't really matter. So to me, even if you're not getting a scholarship, like I forget who it was, but he just committed to UCF, wide receiver, formerly from Alabama and Texas. I believe his last name is Hall. But they say he's a walk-on now. Well, it doesn't matter. Like he's going to get NIL. He's going to be able to, but he's also had issues in the past. So
it's the same. It's the same concept as that MLB player that was like a 4-star wide receiver in 2014. His earnings are basically paying for his time at school. So he's essentially a walk-on. He's not taking the scholarship spot.
Yeah, so in the end, it doesn't really matter, how many scholarships you got. You can pay these guys. So that's what, like, why not commit? If you go hit up some schools, hey, I'm really interested in you, whatever. But also, if you just leave and you got no interest coming in, so maybe that's why. And you can flip back to the school that you were originally in. like we've seen kind of in the MAC. Some guys from Western Kentucky have entered the portal and they jump back in. Some guys from Miami, Ohio have done that. So it'll be interesting to see what Barron does. Wesley
Yep.
Walker's another one that I see in the portal still. Seacrest as well for Louisville. These three guys. But yeah, you mentioned, I'll get back into, I know we kind of, went off on a tangent.
Went off on a tangent.
That time, blame it on the whiskey, baby. No, I'm just kidding. But Penny Boone, I think, was the biggest loss because you're trying to replace Jawar Jordan. And I mean, he was great back for you last year. And Penny Boone was one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the MAC last year. And then he commits in, and then all of a sudden he's like, goes through spring ball. All right, see ya. I'm heading to UCF. UCF's actually got some really good stuff going on there. If you guys haven't been following them, and we will touch on them when we hit the Big 12. But so that's just a weapon lost. And I don't understand it necessarily, but hey, it happened, and that's the new world of this portal. So you've got to recruit, and that's why people may say recruiting is not as important. I disagree. You still have to recruit and get guys that like your fit, and maybe we'll hang around for a little while because some of these big guys, they're just going to leave.
Yep. I'll tell you, yeah, going kind of circling back all the way towards the beginning when we talked about Clemson is the kind of that thought process where there's one extreme, which is Dabo, and then there's another extreme, which is Dion, and somewhere in between, like you find a Louisville that's still doing 30 players. But I feel like there needs to be a middle ground between the Louisville thought process of doing these 30 players and Dabo, where you still recruit heavily with the high school recruits, and whatever high school recruits don't hit, those are the ones, that's where you supplement that position group with transfers from the transfer portal. And
agreed.
If you're smart about the transfer portal, it can really work well, and you can really solidify certain position groups with your team. And I think Louisville is kind of missing the boat on that, where I feel like they're trying to replace massive amounts of people each time. And I don't understand why not try and keep some of these kids in your program.
I'll say about this is Jeff Brom's second year. And he proved to me, he proved himself at Purdue. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for what he's doing this year. And when you look at the talent that they lost, I mean, they've lost some Power 5 talent, Power 4 talent, some guys to Texas, UCF, UCLA, Miami. Marcus Washington most recently committed to Syracuse, and in conference rival. Syracuse has building some stuff. But when you look at the guys they've lost, you got guys going to Cincinnati, which is Power 4 still, but Memphis, Eastern Carolina, Georgia State, Western Michigan. So it's like the talent they're getting in is coming from the Power 4 schools, and the talent that they're losing mostly is going down a level. So maybe it's just, hey, they're just not what they thought they were when they recruited them. It's just an opportunity for them to go get playing time elsewhere because it's not going to happen on this current roster. And they have the 11th ranked transfer portal class. So, I mean, like I said, that's no slouch.
No, they're definitely getting quality people in. It's just, I mean, I feel like this what's the word I'm looking for? Thought process, maybe, I guess is probably not the word I'm looking for here. It's not this mentality of rebuilding through the transfer portal. I don't agree with.
Sure.
Although I don't agree with not using the transfer portal at all either.
I think there's a happy medium.
I feel like there should be a happy medium. And I think most teams do it where they don't feel like they have to replace half their roster through the transfer portal. But I mean, I really think that Brom probably has this year, maybe next year, before Louisville starts getting a little heated.
I could see that. I mean, he did just go to the championship game last year.
Yeah, and I think they missed the boat up. They messed up big time on that one because they should have won that game.
Yeah,
they did not play well
Florida
at all.
State. Yeah,
they did not play well at all.
Now that is a really good defense from Florida State, but yeah, they didn't. They should have gotten a lot more out of that. I thought. So yeah, again, Jeff Brom's second year. They did go to the conference championship game. They got beat by a hamstrung. Florida State team,
Yep.
without, Jordan Travis.
Yep.
7-2 in conference, 10-4 overall. They lost to Kentucky, which I did not think they should. I know Kentucky's got some good players. I'm not saying that they have talent, but the quarterback play at Kentucky last year was horrific. Okay, and that's putting it lightly. So, I know that's a first year coach going in and playing a rivalry game, but still, you had talent on that team. I feel like Louisville should have won that. So now
Yeah.
you go into 2024. You got Shug coming in from Texas Tech. You mentioned him earlier off screen, Trevor, and he's a gunslinger. He's had some up and down moments, but for the most part, I think he's pretty solid quarterback.
I mean, Brom has made it work with lesser quarterbacks at Purdue. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So I think Shug should be. I mean, as of right now, judging by the roster, I'd say that he's probably as it stands right now QB1. But we'll see what it looks like once the summer workouts and everything kind of roll in, and we get into fall ball, and then we'll kind of know more by then.
Yeah. And again, that to me, not to hammer on the portal anymore, but it's just one that you feel like as a player, you want to get in and build that chemistry. So you get wide receivers in, like Colin Lacey coming in from South Alabama. He's rated as a 4-star transfer prospect.
Yeah.
He can start working with Shug in the offseason. They don't have to be in a practice together to work out. It can't be a sanctioned practice in the summer, until workouts. So that's get your butt to to your team and work it. Another one that I think will be intriguing is Donald Chaney at running back for he came in from Miami. Another inter conference transfer, which those are so savage to me, man. But it appears that he's probably gonna be the lead dude, man.
Yeah, looks that way, and I really like the one other pickup that they did, and that it's kind of underrated. But Mark Redmond out of San Diego State, a tight end at 6'5", 255.
Yeah,
he's a big body guy. He's a big body guy that I think Shog will utilize in short passing game situations. That will definitely help him out a lot. Having a good pass catcher. They say that he's like I don't know. I read a little bit about him, and they say he's kind of like a poor man's Kelsey. He has that frame, that tall, long frame, and he does move well in route running. So,
well, they're definitely going to need it. And they've gotten a lot of defensive help, and also on the wide receiver side of it, they got Ja'Cory Brooks from Alabama. Apparently, he's working through a little injury right now, so I don't think he messed with spring ball too much. But they're excited to have him from everything that I've read, and obviously 4-star rated, former guy from Bama, highly recruited. These guys, they just, some things maybe don't work out or they don't hit the field enough. They want other opportunities. It doesn't mean they're bad. Maybe they just need new opportunity. So no, I think they've got a lot of options here. They returned 14 starters from last season, 53% on offense, 79 on defense. And to me, going into a new season, I know you got a new quarterback. There's wrinkles to work out, but having a good defense helps so much. And if you can build off what you had last year and, plug some holes, you're going to be in a good spot. They were the 21st ranked defense last year. So if you can just build on that, Louisville's going to be a solid team. And again, I think it speaks to the depth of the ACC this year, which maybe they didn't have last year. And I don't think they did have last year.
No, they didn't. Not like it is this year.
Yeah.
Not like it is this year.
Teams get older, the transfer portal, all these things can affect a conference change, in a year's span, at least in my mind. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see what they have. Let's talk about their schedule, Trevor.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, but going back to, I mean, I know the roster is what it is and what they're kind of facing, but I think, and you kind of shed some light on the schedule itself, in the pregame, before the pre-production, is that it actually kind of lines up where a lot of the harder games are spaced out enough where it's not so intense. It's not a Florida or some of the other teams that we've covered in the ACC, where it's back to back to back to
Georgia
back.
Tech.
Yeah. So like, yeah, Georgia Tech, aka. But I mean, they do have a couple different tough stretches throughout the season. So I think the Miami, BC, Clemson stretch might be a little bit of a tough one for them. Miami, then you get sandwiched, you get BC in between two
Yeah,
hard games where it could be a trap game for them, where
absolutely.
BC catches them looking ahead, going into Clemson. And that could definitely be something where they might get caught. And it's always a crapshoot on the last game of the season with Kentucky. We found that out last year. That threw a monkey wrench in their plans as well.
Yeah.
So, fourth
It's
game
not
into the
easy.
season at Notre Dame. That, I mean, if they come out with a win in Notre Dame, they'll be putting the whole country on alert.
Yep. I mean, that's kind of how it went last year, you know. They weren't I don't think a lot of people were necessarily expecting Louisville to beat Notre Dame at that time last year, but they went in and really kind of thrashed them. It was 33-20.
Yep.
And then you play them again this year early in the season. And I know there's Austin P first, and then you got Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State, we saw last year, first year in the FBS, they were hitting it, man. They were doing really well. So you got to watch that team. That's not one you can look over. Georgia Tech's another one. Good offense. Your defense better be ready. But we expressed concerns about them in our earlier show about their defense. Notre Dame, like you said, you point out, that's a huge one. Early game. Who are you? Who are you, Louisville? What are you going to show? Let's see it in week 5. Your 4th game of the season, because you do have a bye week early. Let's see who the hell you are and what you're made of. And then, like you said, SMU's a sneaky one. We're gonna hit them later this week.
But you are right. They do space them out on their particular schedule pretty well.
That's true.
Where I don't want to say any game in the college football world is really easy when you're in the Power 4, because any given Saturday somebody can get you if they have the right game plan and have enough athletes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think their schedule. I don't know, Brendan. So with regards to the over under, I'm not so sure if I'm sold on the 8.5 games though.
That's a good point. I forgot to mention that too. Thank you for bringing it up. Yeah, 8.5.
I'm looking at the schedule, and I keep looking at the schedule, trying to see the 8 games and if they can get a 9th game in, and I don't know if I see it.
It's going to depend again on how these portals players all mesh, and how Shug does with his receiver core. Now they've got Chris Bell too, which they're returning from this last year. They're really excited about him and what he's going to bring to the table. So they've got weapons. They have weapons.
100%.
I could see 8. I don't know if they'll get over that.
So you're saying you're probably going to take the under on this one?
Kentucky's looking pretty damn good from everything they've done in the portal. So and they've had troubles beating Kentucky. Clemson.
Yeah, it's that last stretch for me, the November stretch where it goes at Clemson, at Stanford, Pitt, and then at Kentucky. Your 3 out of the 4 last games of your season are away. So I mean, it's just I'm just saying, like, it's a rough go of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think
bit.
I'd probably take the under right now.
I think I would too.
Like
I think
right
I'm in
at
agreement
8.
with you on that.
But they have potential to upset anybody. So I don't mind the way it's set up, like we said, but it's still tough. So Louisville, watch out. I feel the under, but you guys could easily sneak a win in there against Notre Dame. Maybe catch Miami off guard, or maybe finally, go out and beat Kentucky. I mean, who knows? But it needs to happen. And Brom, as a good coach, I think you're in good hands.
Yeah.
Speaking
of Miami, though.
Yeah. What a good segue.
Speaking of Miami, since you mentioned them, let's dive into the good old Miami Hurricanes, the good old U.
Oh, Lordy.
What do you want to start off with? Let's start. Hey, Brendan, why don't you give us the over-under on Miami?
Yeah, so their over under is 9.5, and I I can agree with it because I think Cam Ward is a special talent, and they've also had a pretty solid recruiting transfer portal class, um, especially bringing in Damian Martinez too from Oregon State. He was one of the top rated running backs in the portal, and that's only going to help. Like I did mention, against Louisville, Louisville brought in one of Miami's running backs. Well, Miami had to replace him, so they went out and got someone that they think is better.
Mhm.
But I mean, you look at it; they have the 12th ranked portal class, which is one behind Louisville. Uh
Yep.
oh, uh oh.
Yeah. Uh-oh
So
is right. Uh-oh is right. Yeah, I
look
really,
at their
really,
schedule.
I really like I like Damian Martinez's
Yeah,
pickup. Sam Brown, another wide receiver out of the Houston University of Houston. I like that pickup for them as well.
yeah,
But they did lose Colby Young to UGA, and that
yes.
that that hurts a bit. That hurts a bit. Um, but Cam Ward's going to be a difference maker. And Brendan, I don't know if you noticed this or not because I was looking at their schedule this afternoon and I was
Sure.
going through all the games. Did you realize that they don't leave the state of Florida their first 5 games?
I'm looking. Oh my gosh, I see that now.
I
The
was
hell?
looking at it.
Yeah,
So they go at Florida, then they're at Florida A&M, then they're home to Ball State, then they're at South Florida, then Virginia Tech comes in. Their first away game away from the state of Florida is at California.
I see that. I mean,
And
that's
that's
nice.
not they spend the whole month of September in the state of Florida with very little travel time.
That's actually really nice. And you had asked the question to start. What do you think about the over under? I could see an over on this. I really can.
Yeah.
But I still worry about Cristobal's coaching ability at times. Obviously, we saw him fall apart last year. With that whole fumble. At the end. At the end of the game,
Yep.
that whole mishap that was horrible. But things just don't seem to be clicking. And
Yeah,
even
that's true.
Tyler Van Dyke, I thought he's a good quarterback, but things again didn't really fit.
I'll
So
tell you what, I thought Tyler Van Dyke was actually did a really good job for what he was asked to do
yeah,
last season. I mean, I didn't have any complaints. I watched a few of their games, not all of them, I grant you, but I thought he was a very serviceable quarterback.
I agree.
I don't know. I don't think he need. I don't know. But
I'm
Cam Ward
excited to
is
see
definitely
him
an
in.
improvement. I don't care what anyone says. Cam Ward's a certain improvement.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm excited to see Van Dyke in Wisconsin in a new scene. Maybe that'll help him. But Cam Ward is definitely an athlete, especially what he did last year at Washington State
By himself.
by himself. It seemed like every week it was just we mentioned it on the show multiple times. This poor bastard, he's doing everything he can to do, to win them games, and it just the rest of the team's just not there. They're not helping him. But
Yep.
so now he's in Miami. They have more talent. And again, you look at the schedule, talking over and unders. Florida, they've been in turmoil. That Billy Napier's doing a lot right now to try and beef that team up and trying to get them ready because he knows he's on the hot seat. You got Florida A&M, that's a win. Ball State, that's a win. USF is a tough team. We mentioned them in our group of 5. Don't take them lightly, but that should be a win. Virginia Tech is one that I think is a sneaky team. You need to be prepared for them. We're
Yeah,
going to
but you
talk
do
about
have
them
them at
later this
home.
week.
But
Again, yes,
they do come into Hard Rock. So
very true.
at least you have the home advantage a little bit there.
I will say though, Miami's been notoriously bad about home field advantage and the fans showing
Well,
up.
maybe they should get a freaking stadium on campus.
Oh,
Just saying.
God dang, you brought it up. I've got a list of like 3 teams that we've pissed off on Twitter so far, and it's Miami, Ole Miss, and Ohio State. Well, if they hear that, they're definitely going to be pissed.
Well, I mean, I think their fan base would actually probably prefer it.
Yeah, honestly,
As
they probably
as
agree.
as much of a poor performance it's been at home, quote unquote, at
Yeah.
home at the Hard Rock Cafe Stadium or whatever it's called.
The Hard Rock Stadium.
I
Babe.
love the U. I don't love the Hard Rock.
Oh man, I kind of like the aesthetic of it, but I digress. I know we get on tangents sometimes, guys. It's just what we do. But yeah, like you said, Virginia Tech's a sneaky team, but they do come to their house. and then you travel to a team in California that we talked about in the first episode on our previews
Being
as
sneaky good.
another
Sneaky
one.
good.
This is a team that can knock you out if you're not ready. You've
Yep.
got to be on your game at all
And
times.
that and speaking of the Cal game, one, it's your first real away game from
Yep.
the state of Florida. One,
Mhm.
and two, probably more importantly, is it predates the real start of a tough stretch of
Yes.
where you go at Cal, at Louisville, at or Florida State comes in, and then you go back out to Georgia Tech, which Georgia
Mhm.
Tech, after all of that, might actually be a tough game
Yeah.
where you might get caught being, maybe a little fatigued after these rough
Yeah.
games of these high caliber teams.
Looking forward to the bye week, maybe.
Yeah,
And
maybe.
then
Yeah.
and you can see on the horizon if you're already having a solid season. You got
Yep.
Wake Forest and then Syracuse after that. I don't know. I can definitely see how you can get 10 wins out of this schedule. I really
Yep.
do. Or
But it's not
more.
going to be easy.
But
Not
it's
going to be
not it's
easy.
not gonna be easy, but they do have the talent to go out there and do it.
I,
Again, you have Restrepo too. It is one that tore teams apart last year
yep.
at wide receiver. So Ward's
Yeah,
got targets. He's got a
he
running back.
does. I would
Has
say if they manage to go 5-0 with this first stretch of games,
Yeah,
I could definitely see them pulling off 10 wins because that momentum right there will carry them through probably Cal more than likely. If
yeah.
they go 5-0 and they got that high riding confidence,
Mhm.
um, the real key is Cristobal just keeping the team focused week by week instead of allowing
Yes.
them to look forward. Keeping
It
that
yeah.
intensity.
You need to, like you said, get through Cal, win that game, and then you need to treat Louisville like it's a freaking Super Bowl.
Like a
Don't
playoff
do not
game.
overlook them
Absolutely.
for Florida State. Treat that as a playoff game because
Yep.
if you win that game and say you even lose to Florida State, if you go 11-1, you're getting in the playoffs, and that would be huge for Miami and Mario. So that they need to be on their shit this whole year. I mean, this
Yeah.
is they went all out in the transfer portal. You better go all out on the field.
Got to.
Don't waste Cam Ward's ability, please.
Because here's the deal. Like with the ACC, I applaud most of the teams in the ACC for what they've done in the offseason to change the narrative and to try and grab hold of what was a very predictable ACC conference to now it's up in the air. It's whoever wants to go grab the title of ACC champ. It's there for the taking.
Yeah, I agree, and like we've mentioned it on the last one, we feel like there's maybe four teams that really feel like they're in the lead right now. Miami, I think, being one of them.
Yep,
But any of these guys can trip you up, so you better be ready. Syracuse is
absolutely.
rebuilt. Duke is going through a rebuild. But they with the portal now, you don't have to take long rebuilds. You
Yep.
can be back to hitting it really quick. So every game is going to be important. And really, again, what I see from them too is what they did in the portal. They went and got a lot of defensive help, and they needed it because they did have a lot of tackling issues last year.
Mhm.
They were rough in moments on defense. So if they can square
Speaking
that away and they
Yep.
show that good offense, watch out for Miami. They could
Speaking
be
of the
dangerous.
defense and tackling, they did bring in a couple position coaches to replace running backs coach has been replaced, and so has the defensive backs coach. I don't have the names. I just wrote down that the position coaches have changed because they're position coaches because they change all the time.
Yeah. I don't know what it's called. I just know the sound it
I
makes when they
just
take
know it's
commands.
there.
Oh my god. But yeah, Miami, I could see an over. It's going to be I think, a really good season because it's a favorable schedule. You just have to take teams seriously. And Mario, you have to coach it. You have to stay on your game, and you can't let those mistakes happen like you did last year. Poor
Yep.
clock management, poor game management.
I'll tell you
That'll
what,
fry
poor
you
clock
quicker than
management,
anything.
poor like not knowing overtime rules, like that
Hmm.
shit. Like, how can you be a power four coach and not know everything there is to know about game management?
Dude,
Doesn't
I
make
don't
any
know.
sense.
And I mean, I know you get in the game if you're strictly coaching, but I think as a head coach, that's where you need to start delegating and start being more of a general manager and
Yeah.
paying attention to that stuff. On game, on field manager. Um,
At
It,
this
it,
point, what's the point of having an OC or DC if you're not going to let them do their job and you focusing on the game management stuff?
exactly. Especially now, there's the 2-minute warning.
Mm-hmm.
I've said it on Twitter. I cannot wait to see what coach really screws that up this year.
It's going to screw it up royally.
Oh, because it's just
Somebody is.
another gamesmanship, another part of
Yep.
gamesmanship. Pay attention. It could screw you. Let's move on, Trev. I know we've talked about Miami in last episodes as well, so I feel like
Yeah.
we've hammered on them pretty well.
Yeah.
We know they're a good team. They just need to prove it. I
Yep.
feel like there's a lot of coaches out there that we can say the same. Let's talk about one that kind of fits that mold as well, North Carolina.
Yes, let's talk about the good old North Carolina Tar Heels.
The pretender from last season, even though they
Is
had
going to
a
continue.
top 10 drafted quarterback, top 5, whatever the hell he was.
Whatever. He
Drake May.
got drafted in the 3rd. He'll be dropped in the 2nd year of his contract, but whatever.
Trevor does not like Drake May, for those of you that do not know. And
Newsflash, not a fan. Not a fan.
Him or Klubnik.
yeah, I'd take Klubnik over May all day long.
Ooh,
anyway.
Either way. North Carolina, sorry. Matt Brown.
Sorry. Anyway, back him.
We do this. We're professional bullshitters. Or that's just what we do. But no, we're steadfast on talking about North Carolina right now, and they are over under 7.5. They've got a lot of new things going for them. All right,
they've got a lot of new faces, new things going on. Absolutely. Let's see.
You look at their portal class; it's 54th in the country, which maybe Mac Brown felt like they didn't need as much. That they did bring in 10, they lost 23, so it's not a horrible ratio. But I mean, they've got talent from Jaheen Harris coming in from NC State. You got Barlow coming in from Southern Cal. So you're getting guys from Georgia, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Ole Miss. It's not a bad class. It's just not a lot.
You got obviously Max Johnson's there. He came in from Texas A&M, and they also brought his teammate Jake Johnson. Yeah. So he came right along with him. Yeah, he's a really good sized tight end.
And he played really well both of them did at Texas A&M. So I think that's going to help them a lot.
That'll help them. I would imagine just off of what I know, more than likely Max Johnson will be QB1 unless proven otherwise, and the sophomore Connor Harrell steps up and really shows that he can beat him out.
Yeah, and you mentioned that from spring game tape too, that they liked what they saw in him.
Yep,
and
that's true.
He could very well could be the starting quarterback this year. Just because you transfer in doesn't mean you're going to get the starting job.
You still got to win it. Still got to win it. Yeah. So I got a couple of little notes here. One, thank Jesus. Any Tar Heel fan, praise Jesus that he grew a pair and fired Gene Chizik. You're welcome. God bless. Maybe the defense will actually do something good.
Oh man.
So the new DC, Jeff Collins, was if some of you may not know, was the former head coach of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Yeah. And a longtime defensive coordinator for, I think if I read it right, he was a defensive coordinator for almost 11 years at different spots in different areas and teams before he got the head coaching job at Georgia Tech. Very, very good coach. I mean, he went to Georgia Tech when Georgia Tech was still doing the option. And he transformed them into more of a pro style and spread type offense.
And that's not easy, Just because somebody doesn't work out necessarily as a head coach doesn't mean they're a bad coach.
No, not at all.
Just so that's clear, because some people feel that way, and that's not true at all.
Yeah.
Sorry, Trevor.
And then we have one other major coaching change, at least I feel like, is that Ted Monachino replaces Tim Cross as the D-line coach for UNC. And I thought that the UNC definitely needed improvement in their line play in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
Offensive line and defensive line needed an upgrade in play. So hopefully that he brings a different energy to the D-line and has them perform at a better level than they did last year.
Yeah, and I mean they went out and got help in both on both the trenches. Josh
Mhm.
Harris again from Ole Miss, we mentioned him. You got Leftwich coming in from Georgia Tech,
Yep.
and then Blasky, I believe is how it's pronounced, from Georgia, Austin Blasky. So I mean, you're going out and getting people, and when you looked at the stats from the 2023 season, they had the seventh ranked offense. We talked about their preview last year was they need to really show out on offense and also blitz more on defense, get pressure. Well, they got pressure at times, but they also got torn up. They had the 94th ranked defense in the country last year. So, like Trevor mentioned, they went out and they tried to get new position coaches. They went out in the portal and got some people to go help. Now put it to paper or get it off paper, put it on the field. Let's see what you guys actually got. Because you have Omarion Hampton, one of the best running backs in the country. Don't waste him, man. Get out there, run the rock, and let Max Johnson, deal short passes, be a game manager type, and and walk you down the field, get you first downs.
Yeah.
You
And
you have a chance.
we're gonna
To have
see
a good
we're gonna
season.
see if these additions really make an impact, because they go right for Thursday, August 29th, they go right into Minnesota, and they
Yeah,
got to play a Big Ten team that, for all intents and purposes, is probably, like maybe a mid-tier ACC team. So I mean,
yeah,
they're gonna have big hog mollies up front on the offensive line.
yeah.
They're gonna have a decent defense. And we'll see how Max Johnson or Connor Arrow, whichever one gets to start, can carve them up, because I don't think Minnesota has the epic defense by any means, but they are most Big Ten teams, regardless of what you think of them, will have decent lines. Like if
Yes.
there's one staple that both the SEC and the Big Ten have, is that their line play is usually pretty on point.
Yeah. And the row the boaters, the the Minnesota Golden Gophers, they always are one of those sneaky teams. Sometimes they
Mhm.
get really good. Sometimes they're sneaky good. They can upset you. So that's a tough one to start. But then you look at the rest of the schedule. I don't think it's that bad necessarily.
Nope.
You got Charlotte next, and then NC Central. Okay. So group of five teams, Charlotte, and then you got, an FCS team. And then you play James Madison, which, again, they lost everybody,
Yeah.
coaching staff wise. Still a solid team, but I don't think it'll be as big of a deal as it was last year. And then
Right.
you have Duke, which we said that, on our last episode, they've got changes that they've gone
They're
through.
they're in a bit of a transition period, so
Yeah.
it may be this may not be the year for Duke. Uh,
You could catch Duke
But
off guard
yeah.
and take them down, but then you got Pitt, and we've talked about Narduzzi, being on our hot seat anyway. We
Mhm.
haven't covered them yet. We're going to get to them, but it's a team you should beat, even because Max Johnson's experienced. He's been around the block.
Yep.
This guy's he's going to be a good quarterback for you. Will he be Drake May? What you guys want him to be? Maybe not, but I think he's going to be pretty good for you. So
Yeah.
when I look at this schedule, I see the over unders at 7. I could see you guys getting over that.
And
What do you
honestly,
think,
Brendan,
Trevor?
I mean, I hate to be a broken record with all these ACC teams so far, excuse me, is that it's all backloaded again.
Yeah.
Right here, the hardest part of their schedule is the UVA, FSU, Wake Forest, Boston College, and finishing the season off with NC State coming into the Tar Heel country.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, again, it's the back half of their schedule is going to be the toughest, and see how they navigate it. But more importantly, they need to navigate the front part of their schedule to set themselves
Mhm.
up for success. So if they do stumble and don't have a good game against FSU, or NC State, if they take a 2 losses, there's still potential where they could climb the rankings high enough where they may find themselves in the conversation to get an at large into the
Yeah.
playoff potentially.
These are again, these are potentials. What this whole thing of us doing these previews is more just to kind of tell you about these teams. We're not giving official predictions or anything yet. We're going to do that later in the summer before
Yep.
kickoff, once all the dust is settled.
Yeah.
Because we just finished the Duke show, they just got a transfer portal offensive lineman to commit to them. that's something that's going to help you. Somebody that started 13 games, that's going to help. So again, no projections. We're just kind of talking through it and looking at it. I can see an over, but I will say when you looked at their spring game, and I watched some of it, and I read about it from their blogs and everything, and kind of getting a feel for what their fans were feeling. They were
Yeah.
not happy with the line play, and
Right.
and I, from what I saw too, Max Johnson did get some pressure on him, and so did
Yeah.
Harold. But
Yeah.
so if they can figure out the line, I think it could be a dangerous team. If they can't pass block, okay, lean on Amari and Hampton. You should be able to get through a lot of these just running the rock and dink dunking it down the field.
Right. And I was going to just say that as like, I think that they need to change their mindset on how they play offense. I think they need to go reverse what they did. They don't necessarily have Drake May. I certainly don't think Max Johnson is a Drake May.
Yeah.
As much as I don't like him, I know that Max Johnson's not on that level as a passer. So what I would say to that is that they need to go back to the old way of doing things, is using the run to set up the pass.
Yeah.
And work that as much as they possibly can. You can even go to the Michigan way, is that we're going to keep running until it works.
Yeah.
A type of thing. And, and maybe do some jumbo packages where you only have one wide receiver, 2 tight ends.
Yeah.
You brought in a pretty talented tight end. If I remember correctly, they do have at least one other pretty talented tight end on their roster. I just think that they need to change their mindset of the offense and be flexible with they need to adjust the offense to the personnel, not make the personnel adjust to their offense.
Yeah, I agree. And you see a lot of coaches continue just driving on with what they have instead of adjusting. And Matt Brown's been around long enough. He should know, play to the strengths of your team. If they do that and they're able to run the ball, they're able to get these first downs and just move the ball, run the clock out, I could see them getting the over. But if they try to do these long passes and they try to stretch the field, if the line doesn't shore up, it could be a long season, and you could drop some games that you really shouldn't, especially week 1.
And it might be as simple as them just adding plays, just maybe keeping the base playbook the way they have it, and just bringing in more run heavy plays, like heavy sets and things of that nature, or you do overload to one side and try to do backdoor passes to like a leaking tight end, or
use the tight end.
Use the fake the tight end and then do a backdoor pass to the running back, whatever the case. Get a little more creative. You use the players that you have. Like, you have a great running back, you have a really decent, manageable quarterback, and from what I can tell, the athletes you have as far as playmakers, wide receivers, tight ends, they're all there to be utilized.
Yeah.
So I think they have a lot in front of them as long as they utilize the pieces that the way they should be used.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, obviously all remains to be seen. And we'll talk more about, the ACC when we get into conference projections down the line. But honestly, that's it for tonight that I can think of. Trevor, do you have anything else about these teams?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, these guys are these 3 teams pretty much are cut and dry. I'm probably going to take if I was to say under, and over for the 3 teams.
Okay.
If I was to do, yes, I don't think Miami's going to get over 9.5.
No trust for the old crystal ball, man.
I mean, as much as I know I went back. If you go back to the previous episodes, I am still pretty high on Miami. I just, after starting this the preview process with ACC, it is one of those things where it's like not so confident anymore.
Yeah. Things change, folks, and as you go through and you read more and you talk more, you're like, well, maybe I don't like that team as much. That things change. So yeah, I think right now I might say probably going in order: under, over, and over. I'm going to be a little bit bullish on, but we'll see. We'll see. Things can change, baby. We'll see what happens.
But the over-unders, these are not my official picks. We will do the over-under when we do our official picks for closer to the season.
Yeah, we'll put all that out. But yeah, so guys, stay tuned. 16th is the tentative release date for the new cover. Maybe some more information, on the college football 25 game. So we're going to do a live show that night. Stay tuned for that. That'll be on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And then we're also going to start hitting on Notre Dame, NC State, Pitt is next, and I believe we're going to do that that same night. And then we're also going to jump into SMU, Stanford, Syracuse. All these teams are coming up. So stay tuned, subscribe, like, all that good stuff, comment. We're trying to, hash out all these teams so you guys don't really have to. If you want to hear it, hey, I'm curious to see what, this team's on my schedule. What do these guys think? That's what we're doing. And, hey, we're doing research. We're doing all this. We're taking all the hard work out for you. All right.
Yeah. Just listen. All you got to do is listen, like, and subscribe.
The same.
And don't forget to do comments. Make sure
Yeah.
you comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know what kind of questions you guys have. Maybe some things that we didn't touch on your team. Let us know, and we'll try and dive into it closer to the season.
Exactly. So again, live reveal on college football 25 on the 16th. Notre Dame, NC State, and Pitt. You're on the deck. Get ready. Y'all have a great night.
Take it easy, everybody.